How do you guys feel about the Billiken mascot? I think he's cool. They've redone him a couple of times. This is the modern iteration here. I'm hoping I get a chance to say what's up during the game. This is On the Horn. I'm Zach Joachim. We're doing a special pregame edition of On the Horn, coming at you live from Chaifetz Arena. I am thrilled to be here. It's backwards, but there's the St. Louis art on the wall on the bottom of the arena in the background. This is really cool. I kind of wish the Siegel Center had something like this. They've got like the marquee with the arch up here, which is pretty awesome. And it says the Lou over it. And it's number 18, St. Louis versus VCU. Says sold out under it. This place seats 10,600. It's going to be a phenomenal atmosphere here, and I am amped for this game. VCU has won 10 in a row. And y'all are going to walk through the tunnel with me here. And I don't want to disturb shoot around because St. Louis is still shooting around, but we're just going to give a quick look around at the arena. It's beautiful. I've heard great things about this place, and it is pretty awesome. And again, this game is sold out. I've heard and seen pundits around the country in the college basketball world having eyes on this one. I think St. Louis is favored by 7.5 in the most recent line that I saw come out. And they won 71-62 earlier in the season at the Siegel Center. It's a blowout. They've got all the newspaper things set up over on the seats in the student section. I am seated right in front of the student section, I've been told, which is pretty awesome. Brian, the SID for SLU, is awesome and has been wonderfully helpful and let me into the arena early. So I didn't have anywhere else to go. I really wanted to go see the arch, but it's apparently like a pretty long walk and like a 10-minute drive or so from St. Louis. So I wanted to get to Chaifetz and get my preparation for what's obviously an enormous game for VCU and around the Atlantic 10 in tonight. 7 o'clock start. I'm about to put up a how to watch and a game preview here. We had the straight preview that posted this morning that was in today's paper. And man, I led it with, think back, to that week, to January 10th, after VCU lost its second consecutive game at George Mason. And they were 2-2 in conference play, 11-6 overall. And I think for a lot of fans at that juncture, the mindset was, let's get this team playing their best basketball come the A-10 tournament in Pittsburgh, and you can try and get an auto bid there. And I talked about the schedule softened. It looked going forward like VCU had a chance to get hot and had a few get right games coming up in that sequence. That's absolutely what has happened. They've won 10 in a row. They're 21-6 overall, 12-2 in A-10 play. And St. Louis lost to Rhode Island the other night on Tuesday, which was their first conference loss of the year. And VCU has played one more conference game. This is ahead of their bye week next week. They don't play again until homecoming against Fordham next Saturday, which is already sold out. That's going to be a great atmosphere. But at least for the time being, VCU has a chance to take sole possession of first place in the A-10, which is wild to think about. It feeling like that game at Eagle Bank was yesterday. If you'd have told VCU fans then that you'd go to Chaifetz with a 10-game win streak and a chance to take first place, they would have bit your hand off. And NCAA tournament berths, A-10 titles at that juncture felt out of VCU's reach. But after this last stretch, those are very much back in the picture. And I think the last CBS projection has VCU as a number 11 seed in the first four in right now, or in the last four in. And the latest that I saw from Lenardi and ESPN has them among the first four out. So they're about as bubble gets right now. And so much of it hinges on this game, right? It's your last opportunity at a quad one, hang your hat on it win. Although I guess, if you were to see SLU in an A-10 final, that'd be a quad one opportunity as well, but it wouldn't matter at that juncture. So if you win that game, you get the auto bid. And they're not going to see them again. These are going to be the number 1 and number 2 seeds in the A-10 tournament in one order or another, with Mason kind of falling off recently. So you're not going to see SLU again until potentially an A-10 final. And let's zoom in on this game a little bit, because VCU does not have a road win over a ranked opponent since January 26, 2022. That was at number 25, Davidson. And shout out to Ian Renninger, VCU bro on Twitter, whose stats are just phenomenal. And I learn a whole lot from him every time I see him tweet out. And he talks about how this is a historic matchup for the A-10. It's the first February conference clash since VCU joined the league in 2012, featuring two teams with a combined 45-plus wins. It's only the second time two A-10 teams have had 12-plus conference wins in a February game. The last one was Davidson at St. Bonaventure in 2018. Again, 10,600 sit in this place. It is sold out. It is going to be an amazing atmosphere, and a VCU victory would put them firmly on the right side of the bubble. and St. Louis lost on Tuesday against Rhode Island, which opened the door for this to be for first place in the A10. And so here's Phil Martelli's quote the other day talking about this game after the George Washington game. I asked him how VCU has evolved since that 71-62 loss to SLU at the Siegel Center. And he said, we're a better team, we're a better defensive team, certainly. We kind of got our legs under us, a rhythm to us that we were still searching for in that game. But this game is going to get, this is about getting win number 13, conference win number 13. It's not revenge, it's between the lines. They're going to have a great crowd. I'm sure it'll be loud. I hope it is. It's 94 by 50 feet, the dimensions of a basketball court. That'll be my message tomorrow. So that's been Phil's message to his team throughout this week. VCU flew here yesterday, and then they shot around at Vashon High School, which is one of the best high school programs in the state of Missouri, and VCU fans will know that program very well because Nick Kern, Philip Russell, Levi Stockard. I sat next to Levi Stockard on the plane yesterday. That dude rocks. Had some awesome conversations with him, and he works for Rohan Hamid, and Synergy Technical. You know, has become a figure in the Richmond community, and it was awesome just picking Levi's brain and talking to him for a while. But he's from St. Louis, so obviously cool for him to be making this trip back right now. VCU's up to number 45 nationally on KenPom. They're number 44 offensively and 68 defensively. SLU sits at number 26 overall, 41 offensively, 28 defensively. But over the past month, I think it was Matt Shelton-Need who tweeted this out earlier, you know, over the past few games, VCU has been better in terms of their adjusted efficiency. And so it certainly feels like they've got a ton of momentum going into this game and every chance to try and leave St. Louis and come back to Richmond with what would be a season-defining win here. The metrics for St. Louis are outstanding over the course of the season, right? They're the top effective field goal percentage defense in the country. They're the second best three-point shooting team in the nation at 41.4%, so running them off the three-point line obviously going to be huge for VCU tonight. SLU leads the country in scoring margin at plus 22.3. They're on pace to break the A10 scoring record. It's been a phenomenal season for the Billikens. They got 7 guys averaging 9.3 or more points. They can obviously beat you in a lot of ways. Robbie Avila, the danger man, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Larry Nerd, all that. He's awesome. I love watching him play. I don't need to tell you all about Robbie Avila. But I've got my eyes. Keys to the game for me are two things. How VCU guards Kellen Tames. Because again, you think back to that game at the Siegel Center. He had 18. Nobody really got off against VCU in that game. I'm going to pull up the box score here in a second, but Tames was 7 of 10 from the floor. He was really the guy that beat VCU in that game. They played good defense. They just couldn't get going offensively in that game. Yet Tames 18 points, and then Deion Brown had 10. Everyone else was under. Quentin Jones 9, Robbie Avila 8. VCU did a really good job on Robbie Avila in that game. It was Tames that really beat them. He also had 10 rebounds, which is a team high. And so I'm interested to see how VCU defends them. I would think maybe Michael Bell would be a good matchup for him, but we'll see the different bodies that they throw at him. And in that game, Terrence Hill, 17 points, Lazar Djokovic, 11. That was kind of the point in the season where it felt like Terrence and Lazar were really carrying this VCU team offensively. Tyrell Ward did not play in that game, and I talked to Adam Epstein on the radio about that earlier today. So Tyrell certainly an X factor for me because that was before his resurgence and when he really got going. And VCU's 10-game win streak, has kind of come in lockstep with Tyrell Ward getting back into the rotation, playing some of his best basketball this season. And like Phil Martelli said, his energy being right. That struck me. He said the other day after the G-Dub game, Tyrell, more than anyone Phil has ever coached, he can tell when he's geared up to have a big game, when his energy is right. And his energy has absolutely been right lately. And it's wild to look back at that first St. Louis game and say that he didn't play in it. So that may be kind of difficult for the Billikens to prepare because if you're Josh Schertz, you're looking at a VCU rotation with a guy in Ward who's making a big impact right now, who you didn't even see on the floor earlier in the season in that first game. My other X factor would be Nick Lewis, because Nick Lewis, 2 points, 0 of 5 from the field in just 19 minutes in that game at the Siegel Center. That was when he was very much in that kind of freshman slump after he'd started the year so well in those first few weeks of conference play. It was not the same Nick Lewis that we saw earlier in the season. He's bounced out of that. He's been really good lately. And so those are 2 guys who I think are positioned to impact this game much more than the last time VCU saw St. Louis at the Siegel Center. But also, got to run the Billikens off the 3-point line. And they're, I was talking to Chris Kowalczyk about this the other day, the VCU SID. Their spurt ability has been elite. Funny word, yes, but it's been elite throughout the season. They put together these, 3-4 minute, 15-2 type runs that are just knockout blows. And that's how they've been able to win and separate in a lot of games, especially in the second half. And so I'm sure I think Phil Martelli calls them kill shots. I'm sure he's talked to his VCU team about trying to limit that for St. Louis And if VCU can keep them from putting together that type of run and just getting really hot for a stretch of 3-4 minutes, then they should be able to stay in this game the whole way. You know, VCU led that game against St. Louis at the Siegel Center, I think it was 63-62 with 2.5 minutes to play on an Ahmad Noel layup. So they were right there. And then I want to say SLU closed on a 10-0 run. Maybe it was 62-61 that VCU led. Yep, and then SLU closed on a 10-0 run. That math checks. And so VCU had a chance to win that game late. But then SLU was able to put together one of those runs that they've been able to do all season as kind of the knockout blow. Trey Green as well. VCU's got to be able to run him specifically off the three-point line. I was looking at the St. Louis media notes before this game, and his numbers are striking. He's only averaging 11.7 points, which is good, not great, but he leads the A10 in three-pointers made per game at 3.08 and in three-point field goal percentage at 46.7%, which is absurd. That's third in throughout Division I right now. So you got to be able to run him off the line, man. KenPom predicts an 85-77 SLU win, but gives VCU a 24% chance of pulling off this upset and coming back to Richmond with a win that would turn heads nationally. Again, I've started to see pundits praise the job that Phil Martelli has done in his first season at the helm, and if you can win this one in prime time on national television against a great St. Louis team, then I think it would certainly draw praise from a lot of people around the country. I think throughout the season, Robbie Robinson and I were talking about this the other day. Like, the assumption has been that Josh Schertz is a shoo-in for A10 Coach of the Year. If VCU wins this game, he's not a shoo-in anymore because Phil Martelli has got to be in that conversation because VCU would be in first place and it's his first year at a new program and all that. So I will end, guys, with Phil's last quote talking about this game. We play that game 94 by 50 feet. Their 5 versus our 5 that are on the court, one possession at a time. They're obviously a great team. I think they're a second weekend NCAA tournament team. We go there and play a meaningful high-level game on February 20th. You can't ask for any better than that. And he's right. You can't ask for any better than that. I'm going to walk y'all out to Shea Fetz one last time here.
Hey, Zach.
Hey. What's up, guys? I'm going to walk y'all. I'm sorry to say hey to people, but I'm going to walk y'all out to Shea Fetz one last time to end on the horn here. This place is ready to rock and roll. The marquee says it's sold out. They got the blue out newspapers on the seats and everything. And I am amped. It's going to be awesome in here. Although I might be struggling with the student section right behind me. So let me know if y'all can see me on TV. This is On the Horn. I'm Zach Joachim. Pretty psyched for a big one, guys. Good to see you. Great to be here.